So could you just share with me, I know you described already in your email that you've had sort of a problem with mind identification for quite a while, and even now that you know you've been sort of following these teachings, this tendency continues to remain. So could you just describe that a little bit? What are you struggling with?
Okay. What I'm struggling with at the moment, and it's very typical of my everyday, is that what I'm practicing is what you're talking about, is that always abide to the self. Every time you have a turbulence in your mind, I should be going back to myself. And what I notice, and then when I arrive to the self, I should not be interested in what the story is about, but I should rather be interested in being aware of the story. And I'm kind of doing that practice, but what I noticed is that when I actually notice the thought arriving in my mind, the thought is already caught up in some story, and it's like I'm running after the thought that okay, stop. So it's kind of I would assume that this practice assumes that you kind of being a good policeman saying, whoops, here's a thought, and then I kind of aware of the thought being present, and I kind of catch it before it escalates. But my thoughts are always escalating to stories, so I kind of end up listening to stories in my head, and at a certain point, after a couple of seconds, 5-6 seconds, I am aware that there's a thought, but that thought has already escalated to being a story. So I don't know. How do you deal with that?
What are you currently practicing?
You mean my daily practice? How that looks like?
Yes.
Well, I've been doing 5-minute meditations, like 5, 6, 7 times a day. And recently, I follow your guiding, which means that I do 3 or 4 20-minute self-inquiries on a daily basis.
So you've started to do the 20-minute ones?
Yes.
Multiple times. And how's that going?
That's going very good. I love that. I really like that. I am, even if I've been listening to Muji's guidance for the last 4 years, and Papaji and the non-dual gurus, they've been talking about self-inquiry, but I never knew exactly what self-inquiry was until I met your videos, and I'm actually really enjoying, and it's going good.
Very good. And you're fairly new to the videos, right? You said just within the last month or so?
Yeah, actually, I met your videos 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Okay, very good. I'm happy they're helping. And yes, you'll see that all the content on my channel is really about the practice side of things, because I myself see that, especially with the non-dual teachings, it's a very common tendency to get lost in the philosophy, and we are constantly engaging in these ideas, and we stay on the surface, like usually when I speak to people and ask them what the practice is of these principles, there's little to none. So it's almost like we are wanting reality while remaining committed to unreality, while remaining so attached to our concepts, while remaining full. So that silence is actually the necessary component, which is like the emptying out of all that is false, revealing what is there.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, by me asking you to practice, at least twice per day, 20 minutes, I'm not trying to make a ritual out of it, right? Of course, it's not the sitting down with your eyes closed that is of utmost importance. However, it is only when you start to allow yourself to become empty of Andras and his life, only then can you begin to approach this endeavor of self-discovery with any clarity. Only then can you really begin to integrate these concepts and really see what they're pointing to. Very good. So there are 2 components to this, what we call spiritual practice.
Mm-hmm.
One is definitely what I like to call the inner practice, where you are taking some time, right, sitting down and meditation, practicing being with yourself, by yourself, becoming empty of everything. And that is what ultimately self-inquiry is. Self-inquiry is not a mental, intellectual, dissecting process. It's not a mechanical questioning of who am I.
Right.
Self-inquiry is an open invitation to, rather than being so interested in the contents of your experience, and what you are aware of, to instead be more curious and interested in that which is aware. So one tweak that I would like you to invite into your meditation or self-inquiry practice, in the moments of meditation, do not be, as you said right now, that you're not interested in the content of the thoughts, but here you are not even interested in the coming and going of thoughts.
Okay.
We're simply interested in that which is aware. So when you said this sense of I am, understand that this sense of I am is not arising and subsiding in your experience.
Okay.
It is not coming and going. It is not appearing as something and disappearing. This is to be returned to. So in the moment that you do have a thought, when a thought does arise, in that moment, rather than being interested in the thought, be interested in awareness itself. Not even the awareness of the thought. Of course, that may be in that moment a glimpse that there's an awareness of this thought. But in that moment, once again, be only aware of awareness itself.
Okay. But still the thoughts... Okay, sorry.
Be in that moment when you are aware of being aware. There is no thought. And being aware of being aware. You are not aware of something. You're not necessarily particularly focused on a feeling, on a thought, on a sensation. You're simply aware. This is what we refer to as silence. This is what we refer to as inwardness. Right now, your tendency is to constantly, automatically go outward, constantly being focused on something, a thought, a feeling, this, that. This is the tendency that needs to be reversed.
Okay, right. Because I'm always jumping, because I'm looking and then going back, looking, going back.
Yes. So, in any moment of self-remembrance, you must practice this, of being aware of the fact of being aware. And continue to start seeing that in that moment, you are not necessarily focused on something. You are not focused on anything. In that moment, there is a complete collapse of subject-object focusing.
Okay.
And all there is just being as you are. So only when you start to really bring depth into this practice, Andras, can you then, during your day, not constantly identify with the changeful. Are you understanding what I was saying?
Yes, I did. Absolutely, absolutely. The only thing which is which gives me a bit of hard times is that my attention is always moving to the thought. So I understand your point, but I guess it's a matter of practice that every time there's a thought coming, I kind of tend to, my attention goes there for a second or two, and as I told you, even for more seconds, because I get too much involved in a story, for instance, and
you care too much about what it is saying. You care too much about Andras the person and what's going to happen to you, and what's the story unfolding to, and what you have to protect and what you have to gain. That's why you're so invested in the story, the content of the thought.
Okay.
In the moments of practice, have no care about Andras, the person. You understand? In the moment of practice, drop all interest in the person. only then will you be able to observe the person objectively. Otherwise, you remain in the subjectivity of the person, but the person is never the subject. So of course, when you're out and about doing your work or engaging in relationship or whatever, of course, be the person. But what I'm speaking of is in the moment of practice. The
Right.
reason you're not able to engage from the thought is because you care too much about the content. You're too invested in the story, in the content of the thought. Because notice that all thoughts arise as your voice, right? Me, Andras, speaking.
Right.
About my life. What else do thoughts speak of?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. This is I tend to run my stories about my life. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this investment into your own story is what is upholding the importance of this thinking. It is what is upholding the false illusion of being a person. So in order to start to now sort of learn to detach yourself from it, to be able to observe it objectively, quote unquote, from the outside, at least in the moments of practice, drop all interest in Andras the person, in what you have to achieve, what you have to protect, what you have to fear, worry, expect, prefer. Drop all of this.
Okay.
That is why it's called becoming empty. And it is a necessary prerequisite for self-inquiry. Otherwise, of course, this interest in yourself as a person keeps you on the surface. You see? So if you just learn to do this, along with what the tweak that I shared with you in your practice, you'll see that this will bring great depth into your practice.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to share with you a resource or two that I think you'll find helpful. I know you went through my self-inquiry workshop, but I actually have a self-inquiry mini course, which will add sort of value and bring you greater clarity on what really, going deeper into this practice. So I'm going to share with you that resource.
Thank you.
You can start going through it. Start practicing this in the way that we spoke about today. Really getting experience with it. If this is still something that you're having a hard time with, you can feel free to reach back out and we can see if it's appropriate to work together on this. Okay?
Okay.